Hey, I'm Cameron. I don't just read comics, I love them, and welcome back to another episode of Cameron Reads Comics. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about Batman, Huntress, Cry for Blood, a sick 90s Batman, Huntress comic. First and foremost, I think if you want to read this book, you need to know, Batman in the 90s. Like, who the Bat family looked like then is different than who the Bat family looks like now. So obviously you had Tim Drake as Robin. It was Bruce Wayne as Batman, which maybe is something I need to clarify these days. Barbara Gordon as Oracle. Cassandra Cain as Batgirl. But then there was Azrael and there was Huntress and Nightwing were mostly the peripheral Bat members. And so that was the Bat family at the time. This story is written by Greg Rucka. It collects Batman, Huntress, Cry for Blood, issues number 1 through 6. It's actually like a very personal, I didn't realize until I was rereading it. It's a pretty personal story to me because it was one of the first comics I ever read. I remember the trade paperback was at my local library when I was a kid. I was way too young to be reading it. Now that I read it, now that I reread it, and I was probably either age 10 or under, reading this story. And it's about the mob. It's about like Helena Bertinelli losing her whole family. It's about whether or not she's a justified killer. I'd say it's pretty risque for a kid reading it, but whatever. It's a great book. But it's personal in that way where I remember reading it, and so I'm reading it again and I'm just going down memory lane. Like, the nostalgia hits, and I recall all these pages that I've seen, especially because a lot of the images were used in like DC promo books, like Ultimate Guide to Batman, and on the Huntress page it takes a lot of those. And I realized too, this story is pretty freaking infamous, and it seals a lot of the relationships, in my opinion, that make Huntress. So it was really good. I was just like, oh my gosh, I did not think that this book would be this good. So the story's written by Greg Rucka with art by Rick Burchett. Huge shout out to Rick Burchett for this book, because I think what I most know him for is doing he's the second major artist on the Batman and Superman animated series adventure books. He's the artist that usually does like those. Second to Ty Templeton, who also usually does those. So this was Rick doing, an actual DC title. A DC canon in continuity title. And it's funny because I thought DC only did this for new books, but even for old books, I guess, they throw Batman's name on it to be able to sell a Huntress book. Because by all means, this book is not a Batman book. It is a Huntress book. And she's just part of the Bat family, so it's called Batman, Huntress, Cry for Blood. But just after No Man's Land is where it takes place. So Gotham is finally back together after this crazy earthquake. Late 90s, and so we're just following the character Huntress around, and it's just kind of like an origin story of goes into what does her life look like, what does the night look like for her on a daily basis, and what are her origins. So if you want to get to know the character Huntress, and I'm pretty sure this is prior to Birds of Prey, because her and Oracle are not getting along when this is going on. So that's just because I'm pretty sure Birds of Prey, they work together a lot, so I think that they should like each other. I've also never read the Dixon Birds of Prey run. Yeah, largely the story is about Helena's origin, and she gets framed for some murders, and she's no stranger to straight up killing people. So Batman doesn't love that for her. So she gets framed for murder, and she's basically trying to clear her name, while also trying to figure out who did it. All these feelings of her origin come back up, and she teams up. I understand this is the first time in my headcanon, because it's also the only story I've read of them and her together. This is the first time she teams up with the Question. And this is Vic Sage Question, which is an important difference for me to note, because it's written by Greg Rucka, who notoriously created Renee Montoya as the Question. So this is Vic Sage, this is Huntress. This is the beginning of my understanding of their romance. And I just love it. That is a pairing that I absolutely love. It's so Greg Rucka, and now I just want to ask him about how he feels about the character, the Question, because he seems to throw him into a lot of his DC stuff. Of the 7 titles he's written, he's at least in 3 of them, or the idea of the Question. So I'd love to pick his brain about that character. But yeah, the story is her trying to clear her name. You know, Batman comes in, probably out of all 6 issues, I'd say Batman is in 2 of them, 2 to 3. And he's like, hey, what are you doing? You can't kill people in my town. And that's the extent of Batman in the story. So calling this a Batman book is funny to me. There's a little bit more Nightwing, a little bit. There's Batman, Nightwing, Barbara, Robin. They all come in, like, check in on her, but it's a Huntress story all the way. Funny enough, though, and I'm saying this like, oh, it's this. I think this is necessary reading. If for the Bat family, I think this is. I don't hear anyone talk about this book. I just picked it up because I'm like, is this as good as I remember? I just have recollections of the first issue, so I'm like, is this as good as I remember? It is incredible. Okay, I just thought like the first half of this book, it ends just fine and whatever. The first half of this book is incredible. I think it's like top tier, 10 out of 10. Nostalgia bias is a factor there. It's Greg Rucka doing what Greg Rucka writes best: hard-boiled crime and big, strong, powerful women. Just Helena's characterization, her motivation, the way that they tell her origin, and like the way that he goes into the mob is unlike any story that I've read. It's literally as close to The Long Halloween as I've seen, where it's like, yes, here's a member by member. Here's how the families relate to one another. Here's how those character motivations affected our protagonist. Just really, really well done. Here's a quick change to Huntress's origin that makes her a more complicated, misunderstood character. Perfect. Like, perfect in all those regards. I love Greg Rucka. I'm on this Greg Rucka tear right now. And so that's the other half of why I needed to read it. So really big fan of the character dynamics in this book. Story-wise, it's 10 out of 10. Rick Burchett's art is incredible. If I was now to meet him, I need to get a Huntress sketch because oh my gosh, where is Huntress? Like, let's get some more Huntress stories going. Maybe now I need to go read Birds of Prey. The new omnibus with Gail Simone is out now, so I'll go check that out. But there's just, okay, I need to read this. I need to read more Huntress, and it's unfortunately, like, I'm thinking maybe this is a character lost to time in the 90s. I sure hope I'm wrong about that, but there you go. That's my review. Here's my score out of 10, my rating. I'm going to give this one a 8.7 out of 10. It was really, really good. And it's just like good, consistent, like the Batman universe in the 90s, obviously there's so much nostalgia bias. So if you want to just critique my score, that's fine. But the Batman family books at the time of the Dixon era of Batman was perfect. It was perfectly well done. It's exactly how I see the characters today, and so it was just a perfect characterization of all of those things happening. So, huge fan. That's my score. My name's Cameron. I'll just read comics. I love them. I'll see you guys next time.